Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today is the B.O.B.B.Y build, B.O.B.B.Y, for best one bar build yet. Yeah, I know, it's a subjective point of view. But anyway, this is a tank and it's made to be incredibly simple. For anyone that's struggling with tanking, getting caught on their bar swaps and all that kind of stuff, can't figure out where to put their buffs and bonuses and can't track that shit, don't worry. This is all covered with a very, very simple yet incredibly effective setup with variants to it as well. There will be options to buff your group, and there will be options to keep yourself alive forever. But whichever way you want to go with it is entirely up to you. And of course, there's a crafted-esque option as well, just in case. Now, we're going to go into the stats first of all, which is going to be really simple. We're going to pop a potion, we're going to hit a buff, and we're done. That's it. And look at all these buffs. Oh my god, we have everything there. But anyway, we're going to go over that in a bit. So, 51.9k max health. You are a chunka. 21.5k max stamina, which is absolutely fine for blocking, but you will have to heavy attack occasionally if you haven't got loads of resource recovery in your group. Your mag recovery is on 1.4k, which is really, really high, and your health recovery currently is 3.6. That can go higher, but that depends on your group. And of course, our spell damage and weapon damage is actually not too bad, although we're not technically built to do damage, but we do have an extra benefit. While we have the buffs and bonuses for our one bar setup, we do benefit from extra crit chance, which is really, really handy, allowing us to have bigger heals. If we have our buffs and bonuses applied correctly and time them right, we can actually take a 35k heal and more, up to about 40 actually, depending on your group buffs and bonuses, from the Clan Fear pet alone. It's absolutely insane. Spell resistance and physical resistance are way over cap on purpose. So, what we'll do with that is I'll demonstrate why. If I hit this button here, actually we'll get rid of our pet first of all, just because he's going to aggro everything. I'm going to stab this. Some of you might know what that is. 47k. Now, with the setup that we've got now, if you have minor resolve from your group, that can actually go to about 48, 49. And of course, that does actually benefit our overall performance of this build. And of course, there is going to be an option where you can actually use a completely different set and make that even higher. You can actually go over 50k. There's a very good reason for that. We're going to get to that when we get into the gear shortly. However, we've got everything we need. Loads of resistances, crap ton of health, loads of stamina, huge health recovery, and a good crit chance base that we have all the time to increase our heals if we need to. Now, all this stuff we're going to get into later. This is very important, of course, but don't worry. The main thing here is to note that we've got 64 points into max health. If you want to be squishier, you can just put it all into stam. Up to you. And, of course, we have max health, max stamina food. Flat stuff. No need for tri-stat stuff. We don't need that at all. And it's actually a negative because we've only got two major magical skills that we're using at any point in time. One of which will give us resources back if we don't actually successfully apply it. And the other one doesn't get used that much anyway, just if you're in an emergency. Yeah, we have a taunt that's magic too, but that won't be used very often unless you're in a big, big pool with lots and lots of range stuff. Again, that is going to be covered because our resources are sorted. Now, we're going to go into the skills very simply. So, summon unstable clan fear. Really simple stuff. First ability you get when you make a sorcerer. And it starts off as a scamp, morph it into this, turns it into a clan fear. The benefit from this, while it does do damage, which is not that much for us, is that if you activate it, the clan fear and yourself take a heal. That looks quite reasonable on paper, but if you crit it or you have your buffs and bonuses running, it can get really, really dramatic. It's a massive heal. Don't spam it. Just use it when you need it. It says it lasts 1.5 seconds as a cast time. That's technically only when you summon it. As long as it stays alive, which it will do in most content, then, of course, you don't have that cast time. The heal is instant. So there's your heal as a tank. You need a heal. Next up is your ranged taunt. Yes, I know there's one bar builds out there already, the tanks, but most of them have limited range, i.e. just a sword and board, or they have an ice staff, which again is 15 meters only. You need a ranged taunt. This is 28 meters. We have both. Now, I know that's hard to slot when you want all the rest of your bonuses, but most of them are covered by our sets. So, if you go into the Undaunted skill line, which doesn't take too long to unlock, third skill, in fact, you unlock, starts off as inner fire morpher to inner rage. The other one costs stamina. I wouldn't recommend that because you are going to struggle with resources on that particular bar if you're just using it for blocking and pulling and taunting on your main sword and board abilities. So you need to make sure you can maintain that. The magical bar has really high recovery. We can maintain this very, very easily. We don't need to spam this. and we don't need to spam this too much. So get this as soon as possible. If anyone in your group takes a synergy from it, they will, of course, do damage and area of effect, which is quite handy. But above all, if the target is too far away for you to chain or taunt, this is your range taunt to get that aggro nice and early before it starts splatting the squishies. Very simple. Next up is our close quarter taunt. So you really want to bring stuff in and then stab it. This applies 2 debuffs, which is really, really handy. It's in a sword and board skill line, one-handed shield. First ability to unlock, again, first ability, Clan Fear. First ability, Taunt. This is very easy to get started. Undaunt takes a little bit, but it's not too long. A few dungeons and you'll have it. But this is your main taunt. You stab the target, it does physical damage, and for 15 seconds, it will aggro only to you, unless there are mechanics that change. Same applies with this, 15 seconds. Don't let your taunts ever run out. Whichever one is present, doesn't matter, but you have to make sure it doesn't run out. Don't make it last 15 seconds and cast again, because there'll be a gap and someone will die. Overlap it. Don't spam it, but overlap it if you want. This will apply Major Breach and Minor Breach, both of which are physical and spell reductions to their resistances. So they have physical resistance, they have spell resistance. This strips them both. Technically speaking, this is around 9k resistance debuffing, so your group can do more damage. Make sure this doesn't run out. It's very important, and it's very, very cheap. So this for range stuff, this for close quarter stuff. Either way, you've got control in the room. Speaking of control, we have a pull ability. So go to Fighters Guild. This may take a little bit of time to unlock. Not too much for the first ability you actually get, but you have to make sure, obviously, you go and pick up the Fighters Guild skill line and kill some stuff. But basically, this starts off as a damage skill, and then you can morph it into Silver Leash, which will actually pull. It does still do damage, but anyone 22 meters away or closer, you can pull them to you, as long as they are not CC immune. That way, you can pull it and stab it. So it comes to you, and then you taunt it. That's it. Bear in mind, it does cost stamina. It is quite expensive, so make sure you heavy attack occasionally in between mechanics if you need to. Next up is your final CC ability. So you've got your heal, you've got your range and close quarter taunts with a massive debuff. You've got your pull in, and then what do you do when you pull them in? Just taunt them, sometimes not enough. They might run away. You got to pin them. So, in the Sorcerer skill lines, in Dark Magic, this one is the second ability to unlock. Starts off as Encase, morph it to Restraining Prison. This will actually immobilize targets in front of you in a frontal AoE, much like Wall of Elements, except people get pinned in it. And if no enemies can be immobilized, like you just fired a blank, basically, they're all CC immune at the moment, or you just can't immobilize the targets, then you will actually get 2.5k magicka back, so it's not a total loss. And also, if you hit an enemy, I'm going to go over this in a second, you are granted Major Vitality, increasing your healing received by 16%, which, yes, of course, does apply to the pet. And each enemy that you hit will give you an additional second on top of that. So technically speaking, you start off with 2 seconds, you can get 1 per target afterwards, you can actually end up with about 8 seconds. That's a massive buff. Massive. It says you have to hit a target. You don't. Watch at the bottom here. It's only 2 seconds to start with if you've got no targets. Major Vitality. You just press it. And then you can take advantage of this big heal from the pet, which was 21k without a crit. And if we can do it again, go on, crit. 32. That's without any additional health bonuses and buffs and all that kind of stuff to make that even stronger. Now, the ultimate. Also, we're going to come back to this in a second. The ultimate is your choice. This one I highly recommend because it's incredibly powerful, gives you massive heals for you and the group, and is the longest area of effect stun in the entire game. Not to mention our ulti regen is absolutely mental. So it's very easy to apply this on repeat. If you don't want to use this is in a Dark Magic skill line, by the way. Level 12 to unlock that. Morph it to Absorption Field. That's the one with the heal. If you don't want to use that, you can, of course, use something very, very basic and incredibly overpowered. And that is the Shield Discipline from the Sword and Board skill line. Basically, if you just want to do the tanky stuff, just taunt it, pin it, pull it, whatever, Shield Discipline is an emergency. Nothing costs you stamina for your Sword and Board skills or blocking. For 8 seconds, you block for free, and your taunt is also free. So you can heavy attack from underneath this and get all your resources back, or just stab everything in the room and it doesn't cost you a single bit of resources. It's very, very useful, And because it's 115 ultimate, it's incredibly cheap. In certain situations, depending on your group situation, obviously, you can almost borderline spam this so you never use any resources. It is nuts. Again, ultimate choice is up to you. You could also go aggressive Warhorn or revive and barrier if you wanted to. The choice is yours. Do you want it to give extra damage to the group? Do you want more protection for yourself or emergency reses? Or do you want to give everyone heals and a massive, massive CC? The choice is yours, but those ultimates are really, really key there. They're really, really handy. Each one in its own right is powerful as hell. And that's it for the skills. We're done. You have a heal, a pin, a chain, a range taunt, a stab taunt, and an ultimate. And that is it. Nothing else is confusing. I did forget to mention, however, we are using the Lady Mundus Stone. That is for a very good reason. Now, we're going to go into the passives, then I'm going to explain the gear. So the passives are quite useful, but we're not going to need absolutely everything. So this reduces the health, magic, and stamina cost of your non-core combat abilities. So that's actually really helpful. When you hit an enemy with a directly applied dark magic ability, you heal for 5295. And this can happen once every 0.5 seconds and scales off of your maximum health. Listen to this very carefully. When you hit an enemy with a directly applied dark magic ability, it doesn't say do damage. It just says apply it. So, when you are in combat and you are up against enemies that can be CC'd, because these cannot, if you hit them with that and the CC applies, you will heal. And that heal, with your buffs and bonuses, especially alongside the Major Vitality that pops out of this, will actually heal you anywhere between 6 to 10k. And it's really, really simple to apply. You basically can just sit here holding block, bang this out, take a massive heal, or heal this afterwards or before. It's entirely up to you. You've got so much survival. Now, I recommend you get that as soon as possible. That is a game changer, and it makes people panic less. And also, it means you don't have to keep spamming this pet every 5 seconds. Yes, they are roughly around the same sort of cost. I mean, technically speaking, the pet is a bit cheaper. But, I mean, almost 3.5k, almost 3.8, just over 3.8. There's not much in it. But this one does apply Major Vitality, so if you do get heals from other people, you can get larger ones. So this is actually quite efficient in short bursts. And adds control, so pay attention to that passive. After block and attack, your next health, magical, or stamina ability costs 15% less. Well, I did say that these are roughly the same amount of cost. I mean, technically speaking, if you are blocking, this reduces in cost to equal roughly that. Yeah, sure, that goes down as well, but you get the idea. This becomes cheaper just by you blocking stuff, and so does everything else. Really handy stuff. And of course, if you cast a dark magic ability, which we are using the root for our vitality and a heal and the pin and all the rest of it, you will give the entire group Minor Prophecy, increasing their spell crit rating. I know it says 1314 there, but basically that is around 6%. So crit chance is 219 per 1%. It doesn't always line up exactly right. There's a decimal point in here or there somewhere occasionally, but it's around that. So bear that in mind when you're trying to calculate your crit. I don't know why they still don't give us a flat percentage and still give us these stupid numbers, but that's the case at the moment. So 219, 1% crit chance. Now, Daedric Summoning, obviously this is important. You restore 300 magic or stamina when your non-ultimate Daedric Summoning abilities end. The resource return is dictated by the ability's cost. So technically speaking, we're not really going to lose the pet. In most content, unless you're solo, the pet won't actually die. But, I mean, it can. And if it does, obviously, you'll get resources back. Reduces the cost of your ultimate abilities. Fantastic, we need that. Increases your health and stam recovery. Our health recovery is insane. We'll go over that in the champion points, but it's really, really helpful. All you have to have is a pet slotted, which is easy. It's there. We don't have to double bar it because we only have 1 bar. Max your health out by giving you an additional 8%. That was a really weird way of explaining it. Let's try that again, shall we? Increases your max health by 8% while a Daedric Summoning ability is active. So if your pet's dead, you don't get that. If your pet's alive, you do. Simple as that. You can swap out, obviously, for Bound Aegis if you prefer. Activating it will give you block mitigation, or just leaving it there will give you a minor resolve buff all the time and max magicka, but it's not essential. And to be fair, absolutely love the heal from this, so I would recommend this over that, but the choice is yours. You can, of course, don't forget, use the Storm Atro. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, but it does guarantee concussion if you have the charged version. So if you want to keep plopping that on the group and give Minor Berserk to people, you can. But we already went over the ultimate, so it's not massively important. Storm Calling, of course, increases your magical recovery. Get that. Increases your physical and shock damage. That's not massively essential, but if you want the extra damage, sure, get it. We're not doing that much, but it'll contribute. Increases your damage done against enemies by 1% for every 10% of current health they have. So the higher the health, the more damage you do. 100%, you get 10% more damage. 90%, you get 9% more damage, and so on and so on and so on. You have more burst as a sorcerer. Again, we're not built for damage, but if you want it, it's up to you. These two are choice passives. They're not essential. This also, again, increases your weapon and spell damage for 2% for each sorcerer ability slotted. We technically have 2, unless you put an ultimate on there from a sorcerer skill line, which will make it 3. That is actually important because it does increase your heals. So, weapon and spell damage can contribute to your heals and your damage output. These are flat damage, there's no way around that, but this is a heal bonus as well because it does consider your max stats. Sword and board, of course, we have one weapon type, so just one weapon skill line. Get this, reduces the cost of your abilities. Obviously, your taunt is cheaper, and it also reduces the cost of block. This increases your damage from that particular skill line, which is not important, but it does also alter the amount of damage you can block as well, so that's really helpful. This improves your standard bash attacks, making them do more damage, but they do cost 50% less stamina, so of course, if you interrupt with a bash, it's cheaper. This increases the amount of damage you can block from ranged projectiles, and this obviously allows you to move faster while blocking because you are slower while blocking. Get all of those. Really important. No more weapon skill lines. Ignore those. We're all heavy armor. Ignore these two. There are negatives and pluses to this, but basically this is per piece. And for that, we have 7 pieces of heavy. We get loads and loads of resistances, loads of health recovery, and you get resources back for being hit every 4 seconds. Increases your maximum health per piece. Increases your heavy attack return. So if you do heavy attack, you get stamina back. You'll get 28% more for having 7 pieces of heavy armor. And of course, your healing receives is increased, so our heals are larger that we receive from ourselves or other people. Don't need any of this. Or that. Fighters Guild is actually quite important. So this will increase your weapon and spell damage for having a Fighters Guild ability on your bar. This will reduce the cost of it. So while we don't need the damage, again, we'll take the spell damage boost, because that does increase our heals. This will give you 3 ultimate if you kill an enemy. You might, so take it just in case. This is not that important, but again, it's a damage boost. We don't do that much damage, but if you want the extra tiny amount on top, you can. It's a choice passive, but these two are helpful. That improves your heals as well as your damage. That gives you ultimate if you're lucky enough to get a kill. Mage's Guild is not important. Psijic, no. Thieves, no. Undaunted, yes. Every single synergy you ever take in this game, unless it is an enemy synergy, will give you 4% resources back. Take every synergy you can see. They're all beneficial, and they have that extra edge to it. You must take the synergies. Otherwise, there's no point in them being there. Increase your max health, stamina, and magicka for each type of armor worn. We are wearing one type, but we'll still take the bonus nonetheless. We are, of course, a Nord. Increase max health and frost resistance by 4620. So frost doesn't hit us very hard at all, although we are capped anyway. Massively overcapped on purpose, so the resistances doesn't make much of a difference to us. This will increase your maximum stamina by 1.5k and give you ulti back every 10 seconds as long as you're taking damage. 5 ulti every 10 seconds, so basically 0.5 ulti a second regeneration if you want to calculate it over time. And of course, we do have a physical and spell resistance bonus flat out. So you could be any other race if you chose to. However, we want the extra resistances because we want to overcap. We want the ulti regen, we want the stamina, we want the health. If you want to balance it out another way, you could go Imperial and all of your abilities are much, much cheaper. You'll have more health and more stam, but you'll be lacking the resistances to apply the extra bonus to the debuff that we have. That will make more sense in a moment. Medicinal use. Make sure you get this passive. It is the most important passive in the game, in my opinion. Your potions are consumable buffs. Do not let them run out. Now, time for the gear. The easy part. So, armory system. This is a minor vulnerability setup, so your group has buffs and bonuses. This is a survival setup. You've got 2 options here. Technically, there's more, but these are the 2 basic ones. So, first of all, Master's Mace, or sword, or dagger, or axe. It doesn't matter. There's no passives carried with a single one-handed weapon. So, a one-handed weapon with a shield. You'll have to go into Dragonstar Arena for this, but you don't have to have the perfected version. The perfected version is acquired on Veteran, which will give you 3% heal and taken. The basic version can be acquired on Normal, which is very easy to get through. Just take one friend with you and you'll be fine. Although, if you want to go with 4 of you, it's a higher loot chance, of course. That's the only bonus you'll miss. The rest of it is exactly the same. So go in there on Normal, get your weapons, and done. Now, the reason we've got this is because if you taunt with Puncture, you will do damage, obviously, and debuff the target. But you will heal for almost 10k with your buffs and bonuses applied. And the heal that you receive will also give you that back in resistances. So, if you get a 10k heal, you get 10k resistances added to your already over-cap resists. Also, bear in mind that that bonus lasts 5 seconds, and it's scaled off of your max health. So if you are in a group with a Warden, or with someone with Eben, your 51k health goes to 56 with a Warden. It can go to around 58 with Eben, which can make this crit incredibly high if it does give you a big heal from those bonuses during combat. If you get that big stab in, have a massive heal, have massive resistances, that will impact the rest of your build. And the reason we've got so much resist is so that we can capitalize on this. Obviously, bear in mind, by the way, we do have a Crusher enchant on this with defending. Again, more resistances. Tremor Scale is our main monster set. Very simple dungeon. Go into Volenfell on Vet. It's not that difficult. It's base game, so it's accessible to everybody. This is a stamina bonus, and if you taunt the enemy, a Tremor Scale kind of Dune Ripper will pop up from underneath it, and it will do damage in area of effect. Every single enemy caught with that, up to 6 by the way, within the 4-meter radius, will have their armor reduced. So you've got Major Breach, Minor Breach, and you've got this, which is 3.1k at the moment. If you taunt the target and get another 10k resistances, if you get a minor resolve buff to get even more resistances, this will get stronger and stronger and stronger. Based on how this character is right now, if we get a minor resolve buff, we can actually make this 3.1k debuff turn into just over 4.1, which is actually very, very high for a debuff on top of the 9k we've already got. So it's really helpful for your group for getting that resistance down on the target so they can apply more damage. Again, read very carefully. This scales off of your highest stats as far as physical and spell resistance is concerned. They're equal, so we're good. That needs to be reinforced, as does the shoulder. Where's it gone? There we go. Both of those need to be reinforced with healthy, and the shield needs to be reinforced as well. More resistances. The higher that is, the stronger this is. Turning Tide is the 5-piece set of choice. All you have to do is block damage, and if you do that, bash. Once you bash, big wave in front of you, everyone in front of you will have major vulnerability applied to them. Up to 6 targets, by the way, increasing all the damage they receive by 10% from your group. This can happen once every 15 seconds, and it scales off of your max health, because it does do damage initially as well. This is if you want to do the extra damage in your group, or you want them to do more damage. This is a buff for them. This is a buff because it debuffs the target and allows them to hit harder. This allows them to hit harder full stop. Nice and simple. However, if you did want to swap this out, what you can do, if you want more survival, is put on Leeching. You can go onto Imperial City on normal, and this basically, every time you get hit, big poison cloud underneath the target, constantly ticking every 1 second, giving you massive heals. It looks small, but it's not. It stacks and stacks and stacks, especially with your major vulnerability. You're really hard to kill. Anyway, continuing here. The jewelry. 2 endurance pieces for a 2k almost max health bonus. Just bear in mind, if you don't have the master's weapons at the moment, you can go with 1 piece of the new Druid's crafted set from High Isle, which will give you a health bonus, massive one in fact, and you can go with a 3rd piece of endurance, so you could go with the weapon, which will then give you a further 630 odd recovery, which is huge. I'll put you up to 4.5, 4.6, something like that. That's an option, you don't have to do that. But the other ring, of course, is the Oaken Soul ring. This has some major bonuses and some not so much. So Major Berserk doesn't really matter for us. Major Courage, again, spell damage, that does help towards our heal. Major Brutality and Sorcery, that helps towards our heal, but we don't really care about the damage. Major Prophecy Gives us that 10% crit bonus all the time. Major Savagery also crit bonus all the time. That also benefits our heals. Major Force, not so much. Major Protection, all the time. Major Resolve, all the time. Minor Fortitude, Minor Intellect, Minor Endurance, all the time, which stacks with our Potion, giving us Major and Minor both at the same time for massive recovery. And Major Heroism, meaning our ulti regen is nuts. So every single one of those benefits us, but the most important ones are Major Protection, Major Resolve, Minor Fortitude, Intellect, Endurance, and Major Heroism. Ulti regen, extra protection, and resistances without the need for a buff. Very, very helpful. You never have to micromanage your resistances or any of that crap. You just have to have one bar, taunt stuff, pull it, pin it, whatever. Done. Now, the Jury enchants are very specific to maintain resources, recovery, all that kind of stuff. We've gone with 2 Magical Recovery to keep our magic bar up, but we've also gone with reduced cooldown on potions. We've infused on the Oaken Soul Ring. That is so that our potion cooldown is really, really good, and we can reuse them almost as quick as the cooldown runs out. It's absolutely mental. It's really, really handy. So we can basically use our tripods to keep our buffs and bonuses up, of course, every 37 seconds. The medicinal use bonus allows us to reuse it on cooldown, so we meet the criteria for that. But technically speaking, you might not need it because you can actually outplay it with this. Every 37 seconds, you can pop one of these bad boys, give yourself a heal and loads of recovery and resources back. Really, really handy. So, in short, Masters, Sword and Board. Unless you don't have it yet, in which case you can go with Endurance and a crafted piece. 2 Endurance jewelry pieces. It wasn't 630, it's 618. Said that wrong, never mind. Oaken Soul Ring, and then Turn and Tide on the body with Tremor Scale. If you don't have Turn and Tide, you can go with Crimson Oath for more debuffing, which will also increase the armor that you have so that the Tremor Scale will be even higher. That can go to about 4.3, 4.4. Or you can go with Immortal version, which is Leeching, which is insane. Or you can go with any other set of your choice, really. The 5-piece set is entirely up to you, but these 2 are the ones I would recommend overall. If you want to pump out more ulti, you've got Arcasis. If you want to put out more protection, you've got Lunar Bastion. And, of course, if you want a crafted set, just put on Fortified Brass and Tremor Scale will be strong all day long. Choice is yours. Now, champion points. Really simple stuff. Do not panic about how many champion points there are. You don't need them all. You just need to make sure that you get your 4 slottables and you fill in these nice passives as and when you can. So yes, of course, I'd recommend that you fill these out in your own time, but to start with, what you need are these. These are your passive damage reduction ones. Those aren't that important at the moment, but if you have 10 points in here, you'll unlock this. Max that out, you'll have a 6% reduction to direct damage attacks. Have this for single target attacks, have this for damage over time attacks. And you may need to unlock this slightly by 25 points to get this, but if you put Bulwark on, you'll have even more resistances, which again contributes towards Tremor Scale's strength. However, if you don't feel like you need that because you've got other buffs and bonuses in your group that basically overcap people, you can dump this and just put it into area of effect reduction to damage. Those ones need to be slotted as soon as possible and done. The rest of it, not that important. This is really simple. This doesn't require any prerequisites, so max health, max armor, and max recovery. Nice and simple. Now, most of these are situational, CC opportunities and all that kind of stuff. We're not going to do that. So, you need to unlock this for 10 points, after this for 15. Another 10 points here, or you can go for the 20 for the extra health, and then unlock this. This will give you 30 health recovery for every turn ultimate you have. We build ultimate dramatically. And if you're not using an ultimate right now, well, what's the point in having it? It doesn't give you anything. You're just holding on to it. Well, we benefit instead. The more ultimate you hold on to, the higher your health recovery, the easier it is for you to survive in extreme situations. And then if you use an ultimate, it's gone, your health recovery goes back down to normal, but then it starts building again as soon as you get your ulti regen. So every single time you're building ultimate, you will benefit from a health recovery increase regardless. It does help a lot. And on top of the immortal version of this particular build is really hard to die. And in the green tree, these are not massively important. You may want to get this so your weapon enchants don't run out so quickly, but none of these really benefit you in combat, apart from between combat. So this here will actually give you a movement speed buff if you're out of a fight. So you can get from one set to the next really, really quickly. This does actually give you a chance to not even use your potion, so it's quite nice resource-wise. Not essential, but helpful. And this increases the timer on your food. We're using flat basic food anyway, so it's really, really bloody cheap. But if you want to use it, go nuts, you get an extension on it. This, however, is quite nice in content because you get higher quality item from chests. That helps with your sticker book and your crafting bag if you want to keep resources, or just in general if you want to just sell everything, get loads more money. None of those are really important for content over your blue and red tree, but if you want to go for that, it's up to you. Fashion! Everybody loves fashion, of course they do. Where the hell is it? There we are. Come here. So, we are using the Hollowjack Heavy Helmet. And, of course, if you put Void Pitch as the color on the face, it will black it out so it looks like that, which is mega. Mike can be thanked for that one. I know you're watching. The chest is Ancient Daedric Robe, so it's a light. The shoulders is the Anilarch Chosen Pauldron, so heavy shoulders. The Ancient Daedric Gloves, light ones. The Dread Sails Sash in light. Nothing on the legs, no pants. Doesn't need them, you can't see them anyway. He's gone commando. Ancient Daedric Shoes. You can see a theme here. Frostcaster Sword, because it breaks it up a little bit. Looks mega. And the shield is Deadlands Gladiator Shield. Now, the colors we're using are quite simple. We're using red and black, but whichever ones you want to use is up to you. This one, Void Pitch, is being used for the face, but we are actually using a mixture between Thalmor Black and Legates Black for the rest of it. And also, the Palatine Coral is the red we're using for the most part, but we've also got Daedric Red on the shield, which is over here. That will all be on the website anyway. But basically, that's it. How to play it. Okay, this. Taunt it, pin it, hold block, don't die. And that's it. So, hopefully that helps. Hopefully you have a better understanding of how to approach this particular build. If you want a very, very simple tank with no complications and never get caught by a bar swap block again, enjoy. Thank you for watching. Hugely appreciate the support. If you are not subscribing on YouTube or following on Twitch, of course, do hit those buttons. They are free. Furthermore, if you want to help support outside the channel, there are links in the info section for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook. The website is XynodeGaming.com, where all the written guides are. Countless articles on there as well. So much information. And, of course, Instagram. Just bear in mind, by the way, the Patreon page is how you get all the sneaky secret stuff and access to Discord. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.